Your body is uncontrollably shaking. You are at loss of breath. You can feel your heart palpitating way too fast. You perceive your perception shifting to something else, as if you're losing control, as if it's not you anymore, as if you're dissociating from your body. You constantly have those racing thoughts. They are fast and you can't see them, but you just know that you're unwell, that you need change, and then something in you is screaming. But I want to tell you that that feeling is lying to you. First thing I want to say is that every time you feel anxious is because you are overthinking something. And when we overthink something, it's because we are fearing something. So you see, we always have a fear. And the thing that fuels overthinking constantly is repetition of the same fear over and over. And it manifests as thought. So you see, if the thought is recurrent and it constantly tells you things related to the fear and it brings you down and it makes you feel insecure, as if you're dissociating, as if the world is crumbling because that fear is going to take control of you, I just want to say that you don't have to listen to that. You should go on with your life, go on with the present moment, ignoring the fear. Because the more you interact with the fear, the more it will end up consuming you. Another reason as to why you might feel anxious out of nowhere is because of your background. If you grew up in a dysfunctional environment and people were constantly harassing you or judging you or criticizing you in any way, or you just grew up in an abusive household or any other environment that was dysfunctional, your body got stuck in a fight or flight mode, and the sympathetic nervous system is activated. If you don't know what that is, the sympathetic nervous system is the system that basically gets you stuck in survival mode. So you can't live properly, you can't let yourself live, you can't let yourself relax. What happens is that the body perceives threats, even if they're not threats, constantly. Because it's not used to relax, since it was constantly on guard because it did not expect what might have happened, back at the time where you had to defend yourself. So you're not fully able to relax. You're not fully able to discover parts of yourself because of this. Your body is stuck in survival mode, and the plan is to let it out of survival mode. Let your trauma stay stuck in the past and just learning the lesson that the thing taught you in order to, live better. Something that's related to trauma might be the fear of judgment. I had a fear of judgment because of my trauma. When you're constantly exposed negatively to people ever since a young age, what happens is that the brain starts to absorb the association, there's something wrong with me because everyone judges me. But you need to understand that every time someone judges you is because they are reflecting their own insecurity of themselves. A person that's confident about themselves would never judge someone for their appearance, for their personality, for the way they behave. They would never, because they're just focused on themselves. Stop also having the fear of exposing yourself outside, because people forget. Even if they say something to you, you should not care, because people forget, people move on with your life, and sometimes you're just your biggest critic. But one thing that could help between all of the different types of anxiety could be fixing the association between stimulus and response. Let's take an example. Maybe you go outside and the stimulus is there's a lot of people, and the natural response to anxiety could be I have a fear that those people are going to judge me. You need to fix this association because it's wrong, it's dysfunctional. There's a lot of people outside. Cool, they're going on with their lives. It does not have anything to do with myself. I don't know, maybe you have intrusive thoughts or something like that, right? And you start to have the response, oh my gosh, what happens now if this thing happens to me? I start to have more anxiety if I engage more with these thoughts. You say, cool, I let them stay there, but at the same time, I move on with the present because those thoughts don't identify with me. At the end of the day, thoughts only limit you when you identify with them. If you can have, the worst thoughts of this world, but if you don't identify with them, they don't do anything to you and you won't feel anything to them. The key to everything is not to react to the thoughts that you don't want. Sometimes we don't get thoughts that we want, but it may stem from the past, it may stem from tiredness, maybe even of the brain. But the thing is, if we don't identify with those thoughts, we move on and we don't care. So force yourself to do challenging things, even if you think that they're not meant for you, even if you think that you're not able to do those things, do them scared, do them tired, do them fearful, but still do them. Because this way you're proving your brain that you can do anything and that thoughts don't stop you. You shouldn't let a thought control you because you are the one that controls your thoughts. You see? So throw yourself in the unknown, even if it's scary, even if you don't know anything about that. This way you will reinforce the brain. So yes, my biggest advice is you should do a self-introspection work, before jumping to conclusion with anxiety. You need to really self-reflect on what type of anxiety you have, Personally, one thing I do sometimes when I feel anxious is validate my feelings at first, as a pause. And then I tell myself, what's the problem? What's really the problem in there? What do I need to fix in there? And then I tell myself, what solutions can I adapt to the problem? And once I finally adapt the solution to the problem, I remind myself how good it will feel after I finally manage my symptoms and after I finally succeed at the thing without engaging with the anxiety. Trust me, just pause and reflect sometimes. This is what you need to do. Once you find the solution, don't look back, but move on with that. It's not easy, but it's not impossible.